Hi guys, this is Vidya and I hope you're doing well. So a lot of you are pumping to breastfeed your child or are considering doing it because you have to go back to work or for some other reason. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about all about storing and using breast milk for a longer period of time. And I'll touch upon how long you can store it for, what you can store it in, how to use it, some precautions you can take and all of that stuff. So let's get started. The first thing I get asked very frequently is how long can you safely store breast milk? That depends on the temperature you leave it at. If it is at room temperature, breast milk will stay good for 3 to 4 hours. And if it is kept in the refrigerator, which is around 4 degrees Celsius, it will stay good for 2 to 3 days. And if you put it in the freezer, which is 0 degrees or below, it should last good for about 6 months. Some people have bigger estimates and they say 6 to 12 months is even possible, but I try to stay conservative about these estimates because you don't want to feed your child breast milk that has gone bad. So you want to be on the safer side of these limits. So the easiest way to go about it is, as soon as you finish a pumping session, ask yourself, when is this breast milk going to be used? If it is going to be used in the next feeding, in the next 2 or 3 hours, leave it at room temperature, but keep it in the coldest part of the room or the home, because room temperature does change depending on where you're living and what season it is. So if it is a little hot, leave it in a cold part of the room or leave it in a cool pack. Or if you're not planning to use that breast milk for the next few hours, but you want it in a next day or two, let's say 24 to 48 hours, if you have to go out for some reason and leaving your baby at home, then put it in the refrigerator. And if you want to store it for longer than that, put it in the freezer. Whatever you want to do, do it immediately after pumping. So if you're not planning to use it immediately, put it in the fridge or in the freezer. Don't leave it lying around if you don't plan on using it, because the longer you leave it at room temperature, the more you're compromising its quality. The next thing that you need to know is what to store the breast milk in. Now you find BPA free pouches available that are specially made for breast milk. You can use one of those. They come with either the Ziploc bag type of thing, or they come with a little cap on top, screw on cap on top. Whatever you buy, make sure that it is BPA free and safe for breast milk. The safest thing to store it in is glass bottles or glass containers, but whatever you use, make sure that it is completely sterilized. The breast milk storage bags, they come in the pack that says they have been sterilized already, so you don't have to worry about that, and they're disposable, so you don't have to sterilize them after you use them. The glass bottles are a little more maintenance, they need a little more maintenance because you have to sterilize them. Don't fill the container till the very top, because milk, like any liquid, expands when it is frozen. So fill it up till about 1 inch is left, and so that it has some room to expand. And try not to put too much milk in one bag or bottle, because you have to thaw the whole thing, and once you've thawed it, you can't put it back in the freezer. So just put enough for 1 or 2 feeds, depending on how much your baby drinks. For example, for me, it was about 3 ounces per feed. So I would put 3 ounces, even though the bag's capacity was I think 5 or 6 ounces, I would put only 3 ounces in each bag and freeze it like that. And if my baby wants to drink more, I can always thaw out more bags. So that way you reduce wastage of breast milk. Now, where do you store the breast milk that you've pumped? Obviously in the refrigerator, but try to store it at the very back of the refrigerator or at the very back of the freezer if you're freezing it, because that's where the temperature is the coldest and it's the most stable. Because every time we open and close the refrigerator door, we increase the temperature by just a little bit, and those fluctuations are really not good for storing breast milk. So try to put it at the very back. I used to put it in a separate container so that it doesn't touch the other food that is there and get contaminated. It's just more, sterile that way. So you can put it in a small container of its own, label it with breast milk, and then put them all and put them in an order in which you can use them. So as soon as you pump one bag of fresh breast milk, put it at the very back, so that when you need to use it, you can take them from the front. Now don't forget to label your breast milk container, whether it is the bottle or the bag, with the date that you pumped, and preferably even the time. The time is important because our breast milk changes its composition during the day. So I would suggest having 2 different boxes of breast milk, one for the morning pumping sessions and one for the evening pumping sessions. So if you're feeding the baby in the morning, try to give them milk from your morning stash, and if it is in the evening, try to give them from the evening stash. I don't know if that makes a huge difference to the baby, but I used to do that when I pump. Okay, now I want to talk about some basic precautions before I move on to how to thaw and use your breast milk. Number one is always handle the breast milk and all of its equipment with clean hands. So wash your hands before pumping and before you're transferring the milk into the bags. Similarly, along those lines is always sterilize all your equipment promptly, like all the pumping equipment, the bottles you pump in, and all the bottles that you store, to make sure that there's no contamination. Another tip that I have is don't mix frozen milk with fresh milk. Let's say you have only a little bit in a bag from the last pumping session and you just want to make use of that bag by pouring some more in it. So once the milk has frozen, do not touch it until you have to thaw it. So use a separate bag, because once you pour that fresh milk into the frozen milk, you are increasing its temperature, and thereby it's losing its life. Even if you have very less quantity, put it in a separate container. Next, if you're not using it right away, just freeze it right then and there. This goes back to what I said earlier, that ask yourself this question as soon as you finish pumping: when is this breast milk going to be used? If it's not going to be used in the next couple of hours, put it either in the refrigerator or in the freezer. Pick one place and just put it in right away. You don't want it to be laying around just like that and then later you decide to put it in the fridge. Moving on to thawing and using the breast milk now. When you need to use the milk from the refrigerator, all you need to do is put it at room temperature and it'll be ready in maybe an hour or so, depending on where you live. And then you can either warm it up or give it to your baby, however your baby likes to drink it. If you need to warm it up, you can run it under warm water, or you can use a bottle warmer if you need to do this frequently. Those are a handy investment. And when you want to use the breast milk that has been frozen, it takes a little bit longer to thaw, and put it in the refrigerator the night before. So it'll thaw more slowly and reach the temperature of the refrigerator, which the next day you can again bring it out and warm it up as you prefer. So you have to plan a little bit ahead. Like what I used to do is keep at least 2 feeds in the refrigerator, which I can use immediately, and put like a week's worth of breast milk in the freezer. And as and when I would use the milk in the refrigerator, I would like restock it with the milk from the freezer. So by the time I've used up this milk in the refrigerator, the frozen milk would have thawed, if you can make sense of that. So basically plan a little bit ahead on depending on how much your baby drinks in a day, and keep some in the freezer, keep some in the refrigerator, and you'll be all set. And once the breast milk has been thawed, do not put it back in the freezer, even if it seems like it's a waste. You can leave it at room temperature for about 2 hours, and if you need to travel with it, put it in some ice packs, around some ice packs, and put it in an insulated bag that keeps things cold. And whenever you need it, find a way to warm it up, find some hot water, and be resourceful. But don't put it back in the freezer once you've thawed it, because that again compromises its quality, and it's better to be safe than sorry. So I hope all of these tips will be helpful to you. I wish I had known all of these things before I started to pump. I had to kind of find information from different places, but I will find some resources for you and link them down below. And like I always say, please leave me a comment down below if I've missed something out. It'll be so helpful for other moms. And if you found this video useful, give this a thumbs up. That'll let me know that this content is useful to you, and I'll see you another time in another video. Until then, take care. Bye.